nodes, because one of the big problems we have is getting local food into into cities, because we don't currently have the right kind of distribution the right kind of placement of distribution centers for localized food or regional food systems. So if cities were able to make low interest loans, no interest loans, or economic development zones, supply those with funding for rural partners, it could be quite useful, because it's easier for a large city to raise money than it is for a rural region that may have less economic activity going on. So through bonds or city-oriented structures, there may be ways to get partner organizations who are feeding institutions in cities money. That's what we're looking at. So the other important thing, and this occurred actually as we were looking at the crop report, which we believe you have one of the best crop reports in the state of California because of the way that the trend lines are shown, that there are different focuses on different crop models. It's a very good report. One thing that we were thinking is it would be interesting to start looking at the net price per unit, which is much harder to get to. But a volume of crop doesn't tell us anything anymore, basically. It tells us very little. Because, as we know, huge volumes of some crops are being produced at absolutely no profit. What's really needed for us to understand is what is the per unit value for those crops, and is that increasing against the cost of producing. So that is my tirade. I'm finished talking, and I would love to, if there was any possibility, to talk about some of the things that I was mentioning.
Well, agriculture is not very far distant from anything else, and a lot of it comes down to a land use decision. For instance, in San Francisco, back in the 20s through actually probably up into the mid-50s, San Francisco was your major meat processing hub of the West, all the way from the Mississippi. A lot of it come to San Francisco. I mean, there was hundreds, maybe thousands of
Coming from Hawaii.
Yeah, meat processing plants right in the Bay Area. All of the livestock and everything went by via the railroad to South City. And then people started moving in. They didn't want to hear the cattle bawling. It took a large amount of water. Now there's nothing. You mentioned Sonoma County. That's Babe Amarillo's facility, Rancho Meats. He's been burned out 3 times. You know, he's an old man. No wonder nobody wants to jump into that business. You know, it's the same with here. Where would you, we can't even hardly cite a cell tower in this county. You think, somebody even brought up an idea, well, we ought to put in a slaughterhouse. Immediately, the people's letters from everywhere come in. We don't want it. And another thing, agriculture, not only here, but in the state of California, it's come down, where are you going to get the water? Right now, our California water policy is take it from the farmers and give it to the city people, because that's where the boats are. We have crops right now in California that are either not being planted or going to dry up because of lack of water. Right here in this county, for instance, right now today, hops have increased 7 times just recently in their price. Are we growing any hops? No. They can go up in price 30 times. We're going to have hops because there's no water. So we need to get back to the basics. It's before you even get to the financing and coming up with the money, or somebody do it. It starts with the basics, and without water or availability of water, you can't move forward. Another thing is a livestock producer. One of the biggest problems with producing livestock in this county is your predators. Not only your wild predators like coyotes and mountain lions, but the biggest predator is wild dogs. The state legislature just approved a bill last year that says you can't keep a dog tied up. I know a lady in Redwood Valley, she called me last night, that is getting in trouble from our animal control department because she's keeping her dog tied up, and she don't want it to get in the neighbor's sheep and stuff. But the county says you can't do that because of state law. We're not going to move forward with agriculture until some of this basic, government has done everything they can to trounce on agriculture. I mean, in Coppola, a little town in my district, there used to be 18 people that run their livestock in the national forest on permits. Now, because they don't have that summer land to put their livestock, they're out of business. They're not there anymore because their home places, they winter their stock on, but there's no place to put them in summer. So what do we have now? We have a real fire hazard problem in the national forest that they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to try to deal mean, it's ridiculous, but, you know, when you have, federal government especially, and the state government on top of that, this, you know, might be sexy to talk about supporting agriculture, but the reality of it isn't there. It's diminishing every day, and every week we talk about it. It's getting tougher. I
Well-
mean, you can see, talk about pears. We had more pears taken out last year. The cats went in and took them out, that now you got a fairly good crop, but it still doesn't make it a viable crop. But hops is a prime example. Coverdell and Hopland used to be noted for its hops. We don't even have a stem of hops because, you know, no water. So, you know, we got some basic problems we gotta deal with, and it's not gonna be solved on a computer screen.
Well, you know, I was asked to come talk about economic development. If I would have been asked to come and talk about what you're talking about, I could have told you, I mean, a completely different set of activities, because I completely agree with you. I mentioned a little bit at the beginning, the problem in the country is that the average citizen in this country, and therefore the average government official or policymaker or whatever level, is not in touch with the needs of agriculture.
Well, there's more city people in our country, you know. But democracy's a great thing, tell you, there's a minority.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And so that is a huge, and what the fundamental thing that people have forgotten is that the